Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I am Connor Williams, and we're back with another one of our featured videos. Today's featured video is on Jordan Pickford, the media's treatment of him, this whole debacle on should he be England's number one, shouldn't he be England's number one, should Nick Pope get the call, should Aaron Ramsdale be England's number one, and all that stuff. If you're struggling to get what I mean, then you don't read enough mainstream media, which is probably a good thing. But yeah, if you don't know what I mean, there is this obsession that Jordan Pickford, basically since he took the reins, and has been England's number one, which he's been for a fair while now, that he's not good enough. And sort of everybody's looking for the next Jordan, the next England's number one. Almost, I get the feeling, in my opinion, this is my opinion, the media treat him like a stopgap. They sort of treat him like, oh, it's Jordan Pickford, he's England's number one. Till Ramsdale has a good season, then it's Ramsdale, and then it's sort of after that, it's like, oh, it's Nick Pope, and it's a bit tiring. It really is a bit tiring, in all honesty, to watch. If you watch, England play, from Pickford's point of view, I don't think he's put a foot wrong. I can't remember him having an awful game in an England top period. I know obviously at the start of his Everton career, that was very dicey. And if you told me then he'll be England's number one, I'd have probably said, yeah, probably, because he's the best thing that England have got at the minute. But I'd have thought, God, the barrel is shallow, isn't it? There's a real bottom of the barrel that now. And before people jump on that, that's because we remember Jordan Pickford in his early years, the Origi crossbar, the rash decisions. He just, I don't think he'd matured yet as a footballer, sort of, and now he has. And you say, oh, Jordan Pickford's England's number one, and you go, well, yeah, I'd argue he's one of the top 5 goalkeepers in the league, if not top 4, maybe. I mean, I, I'm weighing up whether to say top 3, but I'm sure people would then mention a player that I'm completely forgetting about. But when you think of the top 6, maybe top 4, maybe him. It's a toss up between him and Mendy, maybe. Allison and Edison being the two top people. But I would argue he's definitely in the top 4. After maybe Mendy getting the shout, I can't name another guy, and even then it's a bit like that. Yeah, I would say he's in the top 4, definitely, in the Premier League. So if you said to me, "Oh, he's England's number one now," I'd be like, "Well, yeah, obviously he's one of the top 4 keepers in the league. Period." Yeah, it still seems like people, and this isn't just the media. I know people who are England fans. For the record, probably point out, not a big follower of England. I'm a club over country man. Always have been. I watched the internationals if there's nothing else on. I watch the World Cup and Euros because they're special, and there's, a good way to spend your summer. So I do follow that part of it. But that being said, I don't watch their friendlies. I'm not that fussed. I want the Everton lads to do well, and more importantly, I want the Everton lads to come back without an injury, which is the bigger one. But I don't sort of love it. Sort of, I'm not going to be the one with the top off, swinging footballs coming home in the pub, sort of thing. But that being said, I do care about the Everton lads that go away, and Jordan Pickford, for me, gets so much unnecessary stick when he's away on international duty. And I've got fat friends who are England fans who want him to be dropped. I've got one who's an Arsenal fan. You can tell where this is going already. He's like, nope, should be Ramsdale. No, Ramsdale, no. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, he's a better keeper. And now that is controversial. He was saying that last season, though, when we were in a dip of form, which I'll get onto in a minute, because former Everton goalkeeping legend Neville Southall has a comment on this, that he said last year. He was like, he's a better keeper. And I said to him, I was like, well, why would you drop him though? And he was like, because he's a better keeper. And I was like, I don't know if the stats completely fill up with that. But I also said, he hasn't done anything wrong in an England top. England got to the Euros. Jordan Pickford saved, I think it was 2 penalties, wasn't it? Maybe 3. He saved one from Jorginho, who's got a very, very good penalty conversion rate. I watched it with my family. I went, England might win this. He saves penalties, and he saved a few. Jordan Pickford didn't do anything wrong. It was it was the lads that missed the penalties. If you were going to point the blame, Jordan Pickford, as much as the keeper did almost a good job. Not perfect because he saved them all, but penalties is tough. And he did his best. And straight away he was like, well, yeah, I guess that's fair. And I think it is a bit of bias, which is the same reason I bath for Pickford. Although saying that, like I said, I'm not a massive England fan, so if Pickford was rubbish, it would for England, but was actually doing well for Everton, it'd be in my favour to say, yeah, drop him. I'm not fussed. He won't get it. There's no chance of him getting hurt, etc., etc. So I said to him, I'm not, I just think you're being very harsh. And he eventually was like, yeah, you know what, maybe I am. Um, and sort of subdued to it. Like I said, Neville Southall's mentioned this last year. He said that the media have a witch hunt over Jordan Pickford. He was interviewed last year, which, like I said, wasn't our best year, was it? We were really, looked like we could have been relegated at any point. Southall, when asked about, do you think Jordan Pickford's still England's number one despite Everton's dip, he said that Pickford's done nothing wrong this season. He said, unfortunately, at the moment we've got Aaron Ramsdale at Arsenal, and traditionally the media wants somebody who plays for England from a London club. So he's going to be under more scrutiny because he's playing up north. And I truly believe there's been a witch hunt against him through the media at times, and it's silly. He's a decent goalkeeper playing for England. Is he going to make mistakes? Of course, he is human. Which is fair enough. I mean, he did. I think that slightly went a bit political by Neville Southall on about the north-south divide. But do I think that that's beyond, that that's a complete myth? No, I think maybe that does play a little bit of a part in it. But like now, Neville Southall goes on to say, that it's not really Pickford's fault either that Everton weren't performing last year. And we watched the games as fans, and Pickford kept us in it a lot, which is what I'm about to say in a minute. Pickford was absolutely unreal for Everton last year in moments, and even David Seaman, England legend goalkeeper, he was speaking to TalkSport about this, about Nick Pope, Aaron Ramsdale, Dean Henderson, and he said England's number one is definitely Jordan Pickford. There's no doubt about that. He's done brilliantly for England. You can't question that. People question him at Everton, but even at the end of last season, he showed why he's England's number one. He made some big saves at crucial times when the pressure was on. And he did. He really overperformed. And I'll get into the stats now for all of the goalkeepers as well, because it's nice to have a stats in the eyes test. The eyes say Pickford's done nothing wrong, and he's actually performing well last season for us, and even better this season for us. His save in the derby was unreal. He's made some great saves. His saves last year against Chelsea were brilliant. That double save, wow. So the eye test says he's done nothing wrong. You've got Neville Southall, a legendary Wales goalkeeper and Everton legend, saying he's done nothing wrong. And then you have David Seaman, England legend goalkeeper, saying he's done nothing wrong. Which makes you think, so why are people almost waiting for him to fail? Now, the other two goalkeepers, it's worth pointing out as well, Jordan Pickford's seen off a lot of, he's the next one, sort of to replace Pickford. He saw off Tom Heaton. He's seen off Dean Henderson. He's seen off Nick Pope. He's now seen off Aaron Ramsdale. They've all come and gone, and Jordan Pickford's been constant. Now, the other two have been in the Nations League because Pickford's injured. Aaron Ramsdale played against Hungary, which was a 4-0 loss. Ramsdale, I think it's fair to say, didn't have the best of games at all. Really poor from Aaron Ramsdale in that game. And then Nick Pope played against Italy. Wasn't amazing, wasn't all, like, didn't have a massive clanger, but he wasn't awful. But he did play, as the time recording, last night against Germany, and didn't have a great game for for England against Germany. Conceded 3 goals. Just an error leading to a goal as well, which is never brilliant, is it? It just wasn't very good for him. It was a poor day at the office for Nick Pope as well, who's now 30. I didn't realize he was that old. time flies. He's older than Jordan Pickford, who's 28. He doesn't look 30 though. I'll give him that. Whatever face cream he's used has been brilliant, but it's babbling on. Decide the point. Yeah, Jordan Pickford hasn't actually done anything wrong. As that sort of as the England sort of stuff shows. I think there was a stat the other day saying that Jordan Pickford, which put it into sort of what's the word? Put it into perspective, perspective about how good Jordan Pickford is. There was a stat bobbling round that I'll read out now before we go into the proper stats. It was goals conceded by Ramsdale against Hungary, 4. Goals conceded by Pope against Germany, 3. Goals conceded throughout the Euros by Jordan Pickford, 2. He only conceded 2 goals in a whole tournament. Obviously, not all completely the goalkeeper. England don't look very good now either, which is another problem, which is worth pointing out. But the goalkeepers do play a big part in it, which I'm about to go through now with Jordan Pickford and Nick Pope, and obviously Aaron Ramsdale, because once again, he seems to be a very, very interesting person that people just seem to really, really want to compare. I think he's the new golden boy of the England goalkeeping debate as well, which is very, very interesting. As people are sort of picked. At first it was Pope, now it seems to be Ramsdale, so we'll have a look at him as well. But yeah, very interesting from the 3 of them. So their stats for this season alone. I'll use this season. There's no point using sort of last season or the season before, because they're going to get into the England squad off this season's merit, which is why it's only fair to use this season. It wouldn't be fair to use when Jordan Pickford was at Darlington, because that's lower down the league. So this season, Jordan Pickford's played 1 less game. It was 6. The other 2 have played 7 games. He has the highest save percentage at 83.9. Then it's Nick Pope with 81.6. Then it's 65% is Aaron Ramsdale. So despite the media drumming up Ramsdale, he actually is the poorest of the 3. Pope is a very close second to Pickford, but again, showed against Germany that he might not be the guy that England fans think they are. He is. Then you go into the goalkeepers are hard to do. You can't do clean sheets because that's a defender's thing. You need to do it just on the individual goalkeeper. Luckily, because of XG, we have post-shot expected goals, which is expected goals based on how likely the keeper is to save it. So Jordan Pickford's faced 9.4, same as Nick Pope. Ramsdale's only faced 5.1 of them. Then you have expected goals, sort of expected goals per shot on target, and stuff like that. But it's the real one is the PSXG plus minus, which basically says, how the numbers suggest either better luck or above average ability to stop the shots. Pickford has a plus 3.4, Pope has a plus 2.4, Ramsdale has a 0.9. So basically, Jordan Pickford is performing better, maybe through luck. Also, it says through ability, is performing better and saving harder shots than Ramsdale and Pope. Pope is then a whole harder shot below him, and then Ramsdale should be doing better. It's really poor. And then you look at the other stuff, because it's not just shot stopping anymore. It's the modern day. It's the modern era. Keepers have to use their feet. Jordan Pickford's launches, a higher percentage than both of them. A lot better goal kick percentage as well than the both of them. He's just an all-round class act. In my opinion, I know people will, well, if anyone's watching that isn't an Everton fan, might accuse me of being biased in all of this, but I think the stats prove it, and I think thanks to the Hungary game, and this season, if you've watched Ramsdale, just because Ramsdale, this is just another quick one, if you didn't see it against Arsenal, Douglas Luiz beat him from a corner. As great as that is from Douglas Luiz, and Aaron Ramsdale absolutely flapped it, should have been doing a lot better. But also, I watched Villa versus Bolton in the cup, in the League Cup, the day before or the weekend. It was that cup fixture before. It was literally the game before from Villa in the pub, and Luiz scored the same goal from a corner, and the League One keeper absolutely couldn't handle it. This is a Premier League keeper. One, do your homework, because I expect a lot of goalkeepers now will know Douglas Luiz can score from a corner, but he did it in the game before. That should be fresh in your memory. Two, I expect a little bit better from sort of somebody of a Premier League quality. So yeah, a little bit about that. That's just a quick getting out there about Ramsdale. But again, once again, you know, we had the stats to back it up, and then we've had the eye test as well in the past couple of weeks. If you've been watching them through the season, Pope has been a decent keeper. He's a good signing for Newcastle. Then you've got Ramsdale, who I don't think's been performing very well for Arsenal. Then you've got Pickford, who's performed well for Everton. But then you've also got the England stuff. Like I said, he only conceded 2 goals in the Euros. Pickford, these two lads have had their chance. This is their chance. And I think both of them have squandered it a little bit and shown why they're not ready to take England's #1 pick. But that's all we've got time for. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and comment down below your thoughts on Jordan Pickford and the media's hunt against him, if you believe there is one. Look forward to reading it. I'm pretty sure a lot of Everton fans will be realising it. But look forward to reading your comments, and I'll see you guys very soon.